Hello you beautiful souls and welcome back to another video. Today is actually going to be a little bit experimental and I'm going to tell you why in a second. So this is a piece that I have drawn in 2016, so it's already been quite a little bit of time. And back then I did my first dabbling with colored alcohol markers, but I have not done much with that. So now I decided I'm gonna try and redraw this piece. And this is the sketch that I did for it. And now we're gonna try to actually color this one, not just in black and white, but with the full force of color. First, let's pick out some colors. I collected all of those colors over the years because I was hoping to get back into color, but then I never really dared to experiment a little. So that's what we're gonna do today. My approach for this is going to be pretty similar to when I'm drawing in grayscale. I start with very light shades and I try to build them up and see if I'm correct or if it looks right. And from there, I just go darker with another color. But the challenge for me is that I actually do have to pick the right colors now. And seriously, I'm very nervous about this. Let's try to add a little bit of proper shadow. Like in theory, I know that shadows are blue mostly, and I also know that blue, it should fit my color palette since everything is gonna get quite the blue tint anyways. I wasn't really sure if my shadows were gonna be dark enough, and so I added a little bit more of the blue. I'm gonna be honest, I'm actually quite nervous about those blue shadows. I kind of do know that they should look alright, but right now they really don't look right to me and it just looks like it's gonna go horribly wrong. But let's trust the process. And by the way, this piece took me so much more time than I thought it would. I actually spent more than 3 days on it. Like I always broke up my time in between. But you will also see that the lighting is going to change a little bit. That is because I recorded it over the course of a couple of days. So I'm very sorry about that. But I think it's bearable. So let's add some details for the eyes, and because it's fitting, let's give her some ocean blue eyes and some matching lipstick, because that's how it was in the original. I actually did want to stay relatively close to the original image, so I did try to keep the pose, I did try to keep somewhat of her expression to be the same. And now let's add her hair. It's supposed to be waves, so the only color that really makes sense to me is blue. So let's go for a good mix of pretty blue colors. I really do have to say that coloring the hair in color instead of black and white or gray, it's so much of a difference, and I really did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun, and I really liked seeing all those changing hues in the color and the gradients. Like, I definitely see myself doing that more. So the biggest challenge for me with this piece was to create enough of the contrast with the colors that I chose. Because, you know, contrast is key, and with the black and white drawings that I usually do, I don't really have much troubles choosing. I don't have to choose the colors, so the only way to really create contrast is to go darker. But now, trying to replicate this effect with color, I have to pick a darker color that also matches with the colors that I've previously chosen. So that I do find this quite difficult, actually. I really don't know what's going on tonight, but if you hear some sirens in the background, I'm really sorry about it, but I cannot soundproof this room any further, so there might be some background noises with the videos every once in a while. I actually already am recording them at nighttime because it's so much more quiet than during the day, but there's only so much that I can do. Alright, because in the original there was a few little dabs of color in her hair, so we're gonna add a few yellow, greenish, as well as pinkish tones. I feel like those colors, they work so well with the base color of the blue hair. Like, I think it really makes it come out more. And I really love how vibrant this pink is. Like, in general, I feel like pink and blue or cyan, they work so well together. I mean, they are primary colors, so that would make a lot of sense. But also, especially for this piece, I think they work really nicely, and they make it so much more fun to actually color her and not just, you know, grayscale her. And the original also had some texture, which I created with a lot of tiny dots, which kind of gave some texture to the water and to the waves. And I really do like this one. So I'm also adding this to this piece, but instead of going for black dots like I did in the original, I'm gonna try to replicate that with the shade of blue, or with the darkest shade of blue that I used for this image now. For a little bit more of contrast, I'm going to try to blend in a little bit of black, but really only where it's darkest, so that there is a little bit more of the contrast going on. But yeah, I really don't want to go overboard with this. And I think this is actually already enough. So let's blend this out with a little bit of the lighter blue colors. Yeah, let's add a few more blue highlights and details, also like to the foamy bits of the waves. I think this is gonna look pretty nice. Okay, so the background of the old piece I really enjoyed, and how I did it, I think it was with watercolors and I just splashed them on. But now I already painted the figure and I don't want the splashes to hit my figure now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut out the sketch that I did before tracing it and we're gonna lay it on top. But before we do that, I want to add a little bit of a base to the background, just, to get it a bit more even and not so patchy. We might have to go back in and fix it later on, but starting off with a base is generally a good idea. And now we're already going right in with the splashing. I really do recommend to do this in an environment where you can either really easily wipe off everything or to have your table covered underneath. This was actually so much fun, but afterwards my place was so messy. You have no idea, it literally went everywhere. I even found some on the floor quite a bit away. But anyways, let's keep going with it. So once we're done, all we have to do is just remove the paper on top and the figure underneath is perfectly fine and without any splashes. Now let's add some line art on top of it. I feel like I could be doing this with pencil or maybe even with the markers, but the result would not be as nice and crisp. And also in the original, I also did some black line art. And even though I did say in the beginning that I didn't want to add any black dots for the texture, I now did decide that I'm gonna add a few, but overall the gradient is much more smooth than in the original, simply because I have those dark blue dots underneath, which do help me create this smooth transition. Another thing I absolutely love doing is adding the white highlights, because in between we have such dark areas, the white is really going to pop and is really going to look like light reflecting off a watery surface. And I think in general the texture of the waves or of the hair came out pretty amazing. I'm really in love with how the Copic markers look, how well they blend, even though I did not do much of the blending. And I think the colors, they just really go nicely with each other and they really do make a nice image. So there's a few little splashes that got on top of the figure, but that's absolutely no big deal because I was gonna add a white highlight to this area anyways, and this way they're easily covered. So because now there is a lot of white looking through and it's kind of creating a not so coherent background, I'm going back in with my watercolors and just, making the base a little bit more uniform, just so that the image in itself is a bit more readable and the background isn't that distracting from it. Also, while I was working on it, I also felt like the black outlines on the foamy bits of the ocean or of the hair, it did not really look right to me. So I got some white gouache paint, which is really opaque, and I went back over it and, I just dabbed it on very lightly. And I think without the black outline, the waves, they just look so much more realistic and they have such a pretty vibe to them. So I did that with all of the waves, and I feel like this is actually doing very well for the overall image. In between, you can still see some of the lighter blue and yellow pinkish colors shining through, and this is actually exactly how I was hoping it would turn out. And alright, we actually are done. I'm not going to lie, this was quite a challenge, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I honestly cannot say if the redraw is actually better than the original. What I can see is that my portrait drawing skills have improved for sure, but I definitely need to practice more with colors and brush up on my color theory skills. So, which one do you like more? The 2016 version or the 2022 version? I really hope you enjoyed this video and spending some time with me. Maybe you're even inspired now to experiment with some of your own markers. I hope you have a beautiful day, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you again next week. Bye!